Hello, this is going into lesson 6, day 1 and 2, because day 2 is really more independent and on your own. But we are going to now look at data that tries to go into why did the buffalo population decrease after 1975. So this is from lesson 6 in your Thinking Deeper document. Right here, we're going to open up the Thinking Deeper document, have that open up down here. So I have that right here. And it seems like a lot of pages, but some of it's just readings that you'll do on day 2. So that's not actually that bad. Okay. So, where are we pulling this data from? Just doing a quick review. After 1961, the population of the wildebeest and water buffalo exploded. This is what we spent the first 4 lessons going over and trying to understand. We did find that the rain or food was value was not increasing significantly during this time. Actually, maybe even decreasing. The lions were not the main cause for the population. We should have seen a huge decrease in the lion population, and that didn't happen. We actually saw some increase, almost double for the lions, but their numbers were nothing compared to the wildebeest population. We're dealing with hundreds compared to millions. So we did find, though, in lesson 4 that the rinderpest, which was a disease in cattle that were brought over from Asia, and those cattle interacted and were in the same environment as the wildebeest and buffalo. Those cattle with the rinderpest basically were the cause of about 95% of the population being suppressed. A lot of younglings died. There were just fields of dead carcasses of cows, wildebeest, and buffalo, just because the rinderpest just was a devastating disease. So, with the knowledge of vaccinations and creation with more fancy technology, they were able to find a vaccine. They were able to use the people taking care of the cattle to vaccinate their cattle. And because the cattle creatures, the cows, did not have rinderpest anymore because they were vaccinated, they did not spread it to the wildebeest and water buffalo. So now you had an opportunity for younglings to survive year after year after year. And in a 10, 12 a year range, the population, the babies' birth rates were doubling for them. They went from like 20% to 40%, which is really high. Which is a really high increase, I should say, in about 10, 15-year change. So we saw a huge spike in their population. So this is where we spent the first part of the unit. Huge spike in their population. Wildebeest went up 7 times. The buffalo went up about 4 or 5 times in population. But now we're going to look into this next section around another 15 years from 1976 to 92, so 16 years. The wildebeest population stays relatively the same. It does dip a little bit at the end, but the height stays in the millions, while the buffalo population sinks. That's kind of sad. And then after that, there is a little bit of hope here looking for the buffalo, but the overall wildebeest population has a dip, but then it somewhat maintains. So this is the first part of the unit, and so what we're going to be focusing on today is the second part, but specifically the buffalo populations. So we're going to see how the buffaloes, what happened to them. And again, these numbers, if you catch it on the graph, there's an extra 0, and that was a typo that consisted on all of them, but they were pre-made graphs. So really thinking about it, is this change normal? Was the initial change here normal? No. The vaccination was the big reason to decrease the hugely killing rinderpest from killing these creatures. But is this change normal to dip down this low? Something just as devastating. It brought its population back to what it was. So something's devastating here. Is this change normal? Maybe. So we're going to look into that. Why were there so many more wildebeest than buffalo? Why did their population not drop? We will look into that. But what we're really going to be looking into in this lesson is why did the buffalo population go down and stay down for a good while? And so we're going to look specifically at why did their population go down. So that's what we're going to look into. So now what you are going to do is go into your Thinking Deeper document, and you are going to answer these 2 questions. What do you think could have caused the populations to decline for the buffaloes between 1976 and 1992? So what do you think was causing this dip down here? You can use principles we've used before, anything you remember reading about. This one is kind of more your opinion or guess, so it's not like right or wrong, just trying to apply your thinking. And then is there any other key things that we have covered so far that could explain, like We talked about disease. We talked about um, rain or food. We talked about human interaction. We talked about predators or anything like that. So think about that. Go ahead and pause this video and answer those questions, and then we'll move on to the data for the buffalo. All right, so hopefully that was enough time for you, and we're going to move on here, going into the data. So a couple things to keep in mind. Both the wildebeest and buffalo populations would have declined if there was a drought or if the rinderpest or another virus came in. So we noticed that it only impacted the buffalo and not so much the wildebeest. Lions weren't really a problem for the buffalo because they were so big. They escape predation significantly more than the wildebeest do. Were they preyed upon? Yes. If they got them alone, yes, they could get them if the lions were hunting in packs. But if the wildebeest were in a herd and their babies were protected, it was harder for the lions to go for them. So the real big difference between the two populations is the population size of the buffalo is significantly smaller than that of the wildebeest, and the wildebeest do migrate. So that migration actually might be what's saving the wildebeest population from decreasing. Since the buffalo stayed in the same place, there might be a reason why staying in the same place would be a bad idea. So what we are going to do is analyze data from the population, the buffalo population. This is also in your Thinking Deeper document. I have it here. And then I actually put it into a Google drawing. If you want to click on it, you can. But it was to put the data here on the chart for you so you could see it in there. So what we are, these were from scientists who measured the change in populations in the regions from those years. So we're going to dig into that. So the first data point here was in 1970. So in some ways the population was still increasing, but we're trying to take the gap from there to there. So this is actually a 22-year gap. So overall, then the North region, so in your picture, that would be here. So it's, I think it's a little bigger. So in the North region, we had a population of 24,000. And then in 1992, it dropped down to like a fourth of that original, 75% drop. This is how many you lost. So that was the percent lost in the population. In the Western region, which is this green down here, the population went from 31,000 to 24. So it still was a good sized loss. It's still a lot, but it's only 22% of the population. And then in the plains, barely anything was touched. So that's interesting. Why are a lot dying here? Why are several dying here? Not to the same level though. And then why barely anybody here? And so we have, again, right here, we do see the border of Kenya to Tanzania, and the Serengeti is these colored regions here. So that could be a factor. We're going to look into some of the data and analyze it more. Is there specific locations in these regions that are causing more loss and so forth? So there are definitely a big different regions. I clicked on the wrong thing. And so we're going to have some additional data points for you to go ahead and look at. And so what you are going to do is to look at the data on the next page. And what it is each region here being broken down by sections, smaller sections. So what you're going to do is look at the data here and look at the data table below it. So you're going to kind of toggle between two pages and mark up the map to show where the population changes. Use the green triangle for increasing in population, the red for decreasing, and the video here goes through it. So if me going over through this now is not enough, then you can go back and it's just me last year going through that. So I'm going to go ahead and explain what you're going to do. So we're going to look at this, and what I may encourage you to do is to look at where we're seeing an increase in population and decrease in population. So when we look at here to here and all that, we actually went up, and then we also see this positive. So one thing you can do in tables, either in spreadsheets or here on Google Docs, you can shade in a cell if that helps you. So any positive, I'm going to go ahead and put the color green. Do I see any other positive right here? These two. And it's going to be the bucket. Then green. And do I see any more? Oop. Okay, so maybe I clicked on that. And then the other places we see a decrease. There are some that are more decreased than others. Like these are devastatingly bad decreases. So that's definitely like a red flag, super red flag. Now, some of these here, like these aren't as, like down here, these aren't too bad comparatively. So I might just put those at a slightly less red. I keep going over there, maybe an orange. But this one's definitely a red. Put anything above. I keep hitting the thing. So you can color code it if you want. I'm just color coding it to kind of match it into the severity of loss. I think my habit is to click on the one. So here, these are all losing. Definitely in these three regions is the worst. So we're going to go ahead on our image here. It is a drawing, so you can double click on it. And we're going to move these arrows to where they need to go. So to save me a little bit, I'm going to think about which ones are already green. So the ones that are green is section 0, section 6, section 7, and section 11. So 0, 6, 7, and 11. Okay. I'm going to double click on here. I'm going to click on this arrow, control copy, control V, and that's 1 for 0, 6, 7, 11. Okay, and then I can now, once you have it, you need to see how my triangle here has 4 arrows. That's when you can click on the triangle to move. So I'm going to move that one here. I'm going to move 6, 7. I said those numbers wrong. And then 11. Come on. Oh, sometimes the one thing I don't like about Google Drawing is it doesn't always work the best if it's too big for your screen. But 11 should be down there. So if I save and close, it shows up like that. Okay. And then for the other regions, you're going to have a decrease. If you want to signify if one is worse than the other, you could probably put a double arrow in certain sections if you want to. But that means the rest are going to be red. Even though I highlighted them orange here, they're still red. They're still negative. There's still a decrease. I'm just showing that these 3 right here are the worst of the 3. That's only for how I like to see things. I like to see the severity level. That's why I changed the colors. You could have highlighted them all red. You might not have highlighted them at all. It was just a recommendation. So what you're going to go ahead and do is double click, copy the red here, control copy, control V. You can make several arrows right now, control V, 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 V. Or even if you didn't and you move one here, let's say you wanted, I ran out of arrows, boom. Oh no, how do I get more? You can either click on another and copy, or since it's the last thing you copied, control V, you can I'll add more for you. Just move them where they need to go. Okay. So that's what you're going to do on here. Save and close. You will have this filled with arrows. And then what you're going to do is analyze the map. Where do you see the arrows? Where do you see the green? And where do you see the red? And specifically, where do you see the red? Is there anything that you're noticing in that? What patterns did you notice? And so look carefully at this map up here. Is there anything that you noticed where you find the arrows, where you find the concentration? What do you think? And give your reasoning why you think. What does it make you wonder? And that is it for what you're going to do for day 1. So if you do need help with this, let me know. Just reach out. But if you need to go back, this video should be still good for you to watch into another tab to see. It should be. Yep. And hear myself do it, the talk again. And then that is it for day 1. Just make sure I go through here. What patterns, mark up the map, different colors. If you want to make comments on the map too, you're like, this is what I noticed. Like if you want to write some of your observations here, you can use this text box. What I do recommend is maybe changing the color to I like the pink for standing out when you have colored, or the green sometimes can pop a little bit when you're on there. And so forth. So you can write a text thing here and type on here, whatever you need to type on that to add thoughts if you want to do that too. Okay. So that was really it for day 1. So it's a pretty short day. So then day 2, what we're going to do, we should have noticed that definitely if I have the green where I have, there's a lot of red, but where do we see the red? If I look at it, there's a red a lot. I don't know why these are shaded those colors, but maybe that means something is protected. So maybe that's a factor. I know that the deep 99% loss here is right up in these first sections, which is closest to Kenya. So that could be a factor. Some of these over here, are also against the non-colored areas here, which might mean that they're not as protected. So that could be a factor. So we're going to look into the three sections. And so the three sections are based off here at the blue region, the mid western lands, which would be here, the green, and then the southern plains here, where there's the least amount of loss. You're going to read a summary article on all of those. So going for day 2 information, if you scroll down like page 6, there's the northern region of the Serengeti that you're going to read about, and you're going to learn about what's happening in that environment, or not just with animals, but human factors that are affecting that location or closest to that location, and how that would be impacting the buffalo. The second reading is over the western or central part of the Serengeti. And the third region is the Serengeti Plains, which is the south. And so you're going to read about each location in the Serengeti and what about their land human interaction and so forth would affect the buffalo population. And so under each reading is a summary place where you can write your paragraph summary. And then the last part here is based on the evidence. What did you figure out happened between the wildebeest and in that 15-16 year span from 1976 to 1992? So you'll kind of do one overall summary accounting for all three locations. So it's a pretty short day. However, the big thing I want to note here, don't just copy and paste from the article. You're going to, this is what you're really going to do for each article and each, even of the 4 paragraphs, summaries. The main ideas in your own words. If you do quote, which is okay to quote like a specific fact, I'm not against that, but we need to try to practice the correct methods in doing so. So if there's like a sentence that you think is awesome, saying according to the author, parenthesis, blah, 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 parenthesis, what this means. And then you're going to put that into your own words. What does this mean for the buffalo population? So these are the things you're trying to answer. How the buffalo population has changed. What evidence was there to draw that? We saw in the data that the numbers went from here to here, something like that. What type of cause and effect relationship? So that you're probably going to notice in a couple places that humans are definitely a cause, or politics, or famine, or all those things can be a cause and effect. So you're going to state those. So these are the ideas I'm going to look for in your summaries, and that it is in your own words. If I just see that it's this article copy and pasted, I don't know what you got from it. I only know what the writer wrote. So you need to put it in your own words so I can tell what your brain is thinking. That's the reason why we have you guys do summaries. It's to show your thinking. If you just copy and paste, there's no thinking there. I need you guys to try to learn to speak in your own words. So I'm just hitting that on that. And you're going to pull all the information from the readings. You don't need to pull from other sources. So that's what you're going to do. That's day 2. So this whole video is for day 1 and day 2. And that's it. That's why I didn't pause here as much, but you can pause if you need to. I'm sorry I didn't leave time for that. Otherwise, have a great day. Reach out if you are struggling. Thank you.